Action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
You know what? Playing sports has taught me one very important lesson, not just how to win, but how to lose. And I think it's important to know if you lose, you got to get back up and get back in the game. It also is a lot about teamwork. You depend on the other people that you're playing with. And that's a leader. A leader always depends on other people on their team.
And Democrats, you might be saying, oh, this is just a drop in the bucket, but this is a state of waste. It is a wasteful, every one of those, a wasteful drop in the bucket that no American worker deserves to have their dollars going to these things. And until these things are answered for and everything else that they were doing, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, is uncovered.
These are the faces when we talk about potential funding freezes and cuts. These are the individuals most impacted. They're here to fight and make sure we do not touch the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and of course the Randolph-Shepard Act, which makes sure that we have entrepreneurs that are able to give back to our community, employ people. So much at stake, from Medicaid to making sure free matter for the blind, rail services, everything people need to live good, dignified lives.
The executive branch of government in our system has the right to evaluate how executive branch agencies are operating and to ensure that not only the intent of Congress in funding mechanisms, but also the stewardship of precious American taxpayer dollars is being handled well. That's what they're doing by putting a pause on some of these agencies and by evaluating them, by doing these internal audits. That is a long overdue, much welcome development. That's what the American people demand and deserve. And that's what's happening. So we don't see this as a threat to Article 1 at all. We see this as an active, engaged, committed executive branch authority doing what the executive branch should do. They have broad discretion in all the funding, as you all know, because you follow this. When Congress funds an agency, they give broad discretion to the executive branch on how it's administered. They're using that authority right now in a way it hasn't been used in a long time, so it looks radical. It's not. I call it stewardship. I think they're doing right by the American taxpayer, and we support that principle. When it comes to the point of codification and legislation and all the rest, we'll be evaluating all those things. But right now, I think they're acting within the scope of their authority. There's be legal challenges. The courts will have some things to say about this. But so far as I'm concerned, Chad, this is not a usurpation of authority in any way. It's not a power grab. I think they're doing what we've all expected and hoped and asked that they would do. For years, members of the legislative branch in Congress, Senate and House have asked for details. They've asked for, the expenses of USAID. I mean, look, this is what was uncovered. 3 just quick examples. I mean, you tell me if this is unreasonable. Some of the stuff that the money was being spent on that we didn't even know. Crazy examples that came out. Look, $100 million on initiatives like expanding atheism in Nepal. That's what American taxpayers should be paying for? No way. Transgender operas in Colombia, drag shows in Ecuador? No way. The American people want us to, we have a $36 trillion federal debt. It is a serious threat to the future and security of our nation. We got to spend money better.
I think what is really important for the American people to understand is that this money really amounts to less than 1% of what our budget is as a country. It is money that goes to the most vulnerable around the world. It is already appropriated and it can't be reappropriated. And so what we are seeing right now is Elon Musk, a billionaire who is attempting to take away resources from the poorest people around the world. This is
leftists are apoplectic not because our tax dollars are being wasted on idiotic things, but because all of it is being exposed all of the sudden, which I think is certainly a beautiful thing. So much of this government waste has been operating in the shadows where the American people don't know about it and has been largely unaccounted for. And so many of these programs wouldn't exist and will not exist now that they're being exposed.
The Trump administration's actions are the embodiment of democratic principles. This is what the American people want. This is what they voted for. The American people overwhelmingly voted for President Trump in a decisive landslide victory to reform how our government operates. Most importantly, how the federal workforce operates. The mission of your partnership is building a better government and stronger democracy. Building a stronger democracy is allowing the will of the people to take effect, not actively working to oppose it.
While the experts sit around and debate, other countries are already on the move. As of late 2024, the United Nations has issued 31 licenses allowing various countries to explore for ocean minerals. 5 of them, the most of any nation, were issued to China. And as one expert told the Washington Post, if China can take the lead in seabed mining, it really has the lock on access to all the key minerals for the 21st century green economy.
Recent reports indicate that Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency may be setting their sights on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. My understanding is that NOAA used a page out of the old playbook of using the Endangered Species Act to attack oil and gas by the way of the Rice's whale. You know, the more I read about the Rice's whale, I don't know if it's a new species they just discovered or it's an old species, used to be called the Brutus whale.
Well, having been a small business owner for my entire adult life, for almost 30 years, my wife and I ran a small business in our district in northeast Wisconsin. I think people are very excited. There's hope right now for small businesses. There's hope for this economy. People have been ravaged by the inflation that we've seen, that we haven't seen for 40 years. And we see the rising prices.
And that smiley handshake that from Trump's envoy with Maduro himself, and the allowing of oil licenses to be extended very quietly, that puts billions more into Maduro's hands and enriches the regime and makes it more likely that a dictator who took power for a 3rd term is going to stay in power.
I will restore integrity to the Justice Department, and I will fight violent crime throughout this country and throughout this world and make America safe again. Thank you.